Hi, it's Taylor with Mom on the Spectrum, and today I've got another unedited, we're off to a good start, video for you over does having a high IQ, can having a high IQ mask autism? Do I need to start over or can I keep going? Okay, so many of you have said that it's easier for you to watch unedited videos because the choppiness of like cutting from one frame to the next is upsetting. So I'm trying something new. So bear with me. But this is a topic that I brought up on my Instagram stories that many of you resonated with. Like I got so many comments about just the intersection of high IQ and autism and all of the experiences that brings up. So I was brainstorming about what I wanted to say, and apparently I have a lot to say about it. So we'll jump into that. But welcome to the channel if you're new here. It's really good to have you. I am a late diagnosed autistic mom of two. I was diagnosed at the age of 31. I'm 34 now. And if you're looking for a place where you can learn more about yourself and find resources that will hopefully be helpful for you and your loved ones, then you're in the right place. And if you would hit that subscribe button, that would be awesome. And leave a comment so I can get to know you a little bit better. I try to get to as many comments as I can. If you are part of the community, welcome back. I love you so much. And recently we hit 100,000 subscribers here on the channel, which every day blows my mind because I'm just Taylor and I just shoot videos in my office and it's so cool that you're here. So anyways, let's talk about having a high IQ and how that relates to late diagnosed autism. Yikes. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about defining high IQ. Let me make sure I'm still recording. Okay, we're still recording. Okay, so it's always seemed weird to me that somebody got to like design an IQ test. Okay, who gets to decide who designs the IQ test? What are you basing it off of? How long ago was it made? What kind of intelligence are you measuring? Why does it matter what kind of intelligence you're measuring? There's too many questions. And I'm like, from what I know about the brain, we're using so little of it, like, right? There's all these studies that show like there's so much more of our brain that we can be using, and we're testing the little bit of our brain that we know how to use, and we're letting some person or group of people, are they men, are they women, what's their background, I don't know. So anyways, like the IQ test, I'm just gonna like put a pin in that. I'm not necessarily talking about like having a high score on the IQ test, although many of us do, okay? But you know if I'm talking about you, okay? If you identify as a high IQ individual, you know who you are, right? So let me talk about my experience as a high IQ person. And I'm saying this solely like for informational purposes. I'm not over here like trying to brag or anything, like whatever. I'm just going to tell you what my school experience was like so that hopefully you can feel less alone and resonate with some of this. So from the beginning, like from kindergarten, I was like teacher's pet. Like my kindergarten teacher bought me special books and like would teach me outside of the curriculum that she taught the rest of the class. They wanted me to skip a grade in first grade, which I didn't end up doing. They wanted me to try like a private school, which I didn't end up doing because it was more attention. It was a smaller class size, and I remember like wanting to run away from that. Like I remember visiting with my mom. She's like, "Do you like it?" I'm like, no. So I didn't skip a grade. I didn't go to a private school. I just stayed in public school education. I tested really high on everything. And I say this just because I think it's part of how my brain works, and I think it's important to mention. I would get like 100s on everything, like even through high school. Like I had so many 100s, just perfect grades. And I'll talk about why I think that was in a second. But I was always at the top of the class. I always took all the weighted, just super intense classes to the point, like I look back now, I'm like, what was the point of like killing myself over, and I say that facetiously, but like, what was the point of just putting so much pressure on myself to be in all the top classes and do all the top things? But I was always like, my papers were the ones that the teachers used in class as an example, I was always like going to like being called in for special projects, and like I was always the leader of teams because people wanted, thought I would be a good influence on other people, everything. So I came into college with like as a sophomore at TCU because I had so many credits because I took so many big, hard, tough, scary classes. And then I graduated a year early from TCU with my music performance degree, which usually takes people like 4.5 or 5 years. I did it in 3 years. Okay. And I'm saying that again, not to brag, but just because that's how my brain works. Like I see patterns, I learn how to replicate that pattern, and I'm able to like regurgitate information. And I'm going to talk about that more in just a second. So that's what I mean from my perspective of having a high IQ. And I think, if you're autistic, like, that feeling of, like, I consider myself a watcher. Like, I watch people. I study patterns. I know for sure that my brain works differently than other people. And that's the thing, up until the point I got my autism diagnosis, that's what kept pushing me to get my autism diagnosis. Like, my brain works differently than yours, right? I would watch my classmates and be like, I don't know what it is or how to articulate it. There's like emotion here for me behind this. I guess I felt really isolated about this. I know that I'm different than you, but I don't know how to articulate it. I know that the way my brain processes information and integrates it and then communicates it is totally different, okay? And I dealt with having that understanding without being able to communicate it until I was 31, okay? So that was what my school experience looks like, and that's what I'm talking about for the purpose of this video in terms of high IQ. Or not even high IQ, but like a different cognitive level of showing up in the world. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. Okay, so we talked about that. I had a little rant about the IQ test in general because I've never really understood, like, anyways, I won't rant on that again. Okay, things I heard growing up. You're too sensitive. She's just really shy. She's just really smart. She's in her own world. She's just really stressed. She has a lot of anxiety because she's so smart, that kind of thing. It's like, I feel like I was talked about a lot, like, teachers and, parent-teacher conferences, a lot of like whispers and like glances and like talking about me, but never really knowing what was being said. It's like everybody was always trying to figure out what to do with me, I think. And I hated, like, we had a gifted and talented class, and I hated being pulled out for it. And for whatever reason, the way that they approached problem solving in the gifted and talented class did not work well with my brain. I don't know if anybody else, in Odyssey of the Mind, did anybody else do Odyssey of the Mind? Because it's like just out of the box creative problem solving thinking, and that's not usually my brain. Like, I need direction, I need concrete details, I need space to be able to explore on my own and not in a group setting. And gifted and talented and Odyssey of the Mind, which were both just gifted programs, are group work and like working together for problem solving with not a whole lot of concrete details, like very open-ended. And I feel so stressed talking about this. That is not what I want. That is not how I want to function. So the ways that people tried to support me, and they did try to support me, I didn't feel like it was a good fit for me, but I had absolutely no words to describe why it wasn't a good fit for me. Okay, so yeah, things I heard growing up: too sensitive, just stressed, anxious, depressed, OCD, perfectionist, too sensitive, overreacting. So I internalized all of this stuff, and where did I put this in my notes? It's all going to come together in my notes. This might be, again, I'm not editing it, so it might be a little bit disjointed, but one thing that I really dealt with as a result of internalizing all of this stress and inability to communicate my experience is it came out in the form of autoimmune disease and asthma and heart problems. So in second grade, I started dealing with alopecia, which is an autoimmune disease that causes your hair to fall out. And I've still dealt with it throughout my life. I had another episode of it when I was pregnant with my youngest. And then actually I'm dealing with it again right now. I've had a lot of hair loss this past year with the divorce, and it's been really upsetting. Okay, so your body finds ways to show you that it's stressed. It did that to me with autoimmune disease. I also had to wear a heart monitor in elementary school because I had heart palpitations all the time. And I just remember feeling really stressed and lonely about that, and like really scared, because if you've ever had heart palpitations before, they're scary and they're really unsettling. It like feels like something is really wrong. Most of the time, heart palpitations, I'm not a medical provider, so this is not medical advice. Most of the time, heart palpitations are nothing to worry about, but they feel really scary. So I had those. I still have those as an adult, but less frequently. And then what was the other thing I said? Oh, asthma. Okay. And so my body found ways to show me that it was upset and stressed. And these are some of the ways that I internalized having a high IQ, being successful in school, but internally like really suffering. Yeah. Okay. If you haven't heard the term twice exceptional refers to people that are like really smart in a particular area or areas like music or math, but also have a learning difference like ADHD, autism, etc. And I never heard that term until like recently, like within the past year or two. So it would have been really nice to have that term when I was younger. And I'm just sharing that for extra information if you'd like to research that more. I also feel like I'm talking really fast. Sometimes y'all are like, you talk so fast. Well, yeah, I do. Okay. Things that helped me go under the radar. I have a really high emotional intelligence, and I have had a really high emotional intelligence since I was young. I became really, really good at people pleasing. And this is something I notice for a lot of people on the spectrum. We're really good at reading what other people want and need, especially from us, and we can give that to them very quickly and very easily. A lot of times it comes with a cost of ignoring our own wants and needs, but I do have a very high emotional intelligence to the point where like I can pick up on slight changes in body movement and eye contact and posture of other people. Even I can just like feel an energy sometimes, and I understand almost exactly, like I've known specific things about people that are going on in their life before without them telling me. Like, okay. I also, pattern recognition. This is what a lot of stuff was coming back to that I was talking about earlier. I recognize patterns. I watch people, I recognize patterns, I replicate the patterns. So this is why I feel like I would just get 100s on so many things. I would study the rubric. I would have a textbook. I would go home. I would do everything on my own, and I would do exactly what the rubric asked for. I also had a really hard time reading. Like, I would get a much different takeaway from books than what my teacher was saying. And so I depended on Spark Notes, which hopefully you know what Spark Notes are. It's just like a way that, like a company that summarizes books for you and tells you what it's about. And so I relied on Spark Notes to study because I was like, okay, this is what they want to hear on the test. It's different than what my brain is telling me that this book is about. In a lot of ways, I would synthesize information a lot differently. So I use Spark Notes a lot. Basically, I would just find patterns. I would understand what the teacher wants from me, and I would replicate it. And a lot of times, especially in college, I felt like this was to my detriment because I could regurgitate information, but because I wasn't synthesizing it and putting it in my own words, because I wasn't processing it my way and internalizing the information, I lost it like as soon as the test was over. And I like lament about this sometimes with my music degree because I just feel like I pushed myself through school so quickly, and then just tried to score so high on all the tests that like as soon as the test was over, I feel like I lost a lot of the information because to me it was more about the grade and doing what I was supposed to than learning the information. I just don't feel like looking back, I feel like my brain was not ready developmentally. Not that I was like behind, it's just like I hadn't yet learned. I'm putting this together right now. I was so focused on people pleasing and giving my teachers what they wanted that I hadn't yet developed the ability to kind of figure out what I wanted to learn and why, like what was actually important to me and why did it matter for me in my life. And I only started to do that as an adult after I got my degree. And now looking back, I'm like, college would be a totally different experience for me for so many reasons. Anyways, this video, I'm going to have to put this in 2 parts. I'm like a third of the way down my list. Okay. So perfectionism is another thing that helped me fly under the radar. Perfectionism is a coping strategy that a lot of times can help people avoid unwanted negative attention. And I have been a perfectionist for as long as I can remember. And that's one way that I've avoided attention that I don't want to have, is just to do things perfectly so that nobody has to worry about me. And I did that in school too. Again, that kind of blends in with the pattern recognition of perfectly identifying patterns and replicating them. I also had musical talent. This helped me go under the radar because I was successful musically. I had social skills. It drained me to use them most of the time. And I pushed myself socially way harder than I ever would have, knowing what I know now. Like, it's bizarre how much I did socially in school, knowing what I know about myself now. But I did have social skills. And I think being in band helped me a lot, because if you're on a team or in an organization that spends so much time together, you just end up supporting each other. You become kind of like a family. Texas band is wild. Like, it's so competitive, and we all just spent so much time together. And so that helped me be successful because I had a lot of people on my side that had common goals. I shoved my feelings down and I lived in my brain. And I think a lot of autistic people do this. Again, we're told we're too sensitive, that we're overthinking. And so we're basically like, okay, watch this, I won't. Like, watch this, I won't be a problem anymore. I'm going to internalize everything and live in my brain. And so we spend a lot of time overthinking things in our brain. And whenever we retreat there, we become less of an issue to other people because we're not taking up space anymore, right? We're here instead of like actually feeling and processing those feelings in the context of relationships. We're just like, nope, I'm going to deal with it on my own. Okay, so that helps me go under the radar because I don't ask for help. And I shove my feelings down. We find ways to channel our stress and anxiety, right? And this is where I think special interests play a really big role for us on the spectrum. I wrote down, I'm a watcher of people. I kind of talked about that earlier. I retreated into my brain instead of feeling. Yeah, we talked about that. Okay. And in school, the way it's set up in America is kind of like you only receive attention in school if you are misbehaving, like if you have behavior issues or if you have bad grades. And so I was like, watch this. I'm not going to have any of those ever. And I never got in trouble and I never got a bad grade. And so I avoided attention. But the catch there is that I also kind of wanted to avoid the positive attention because I was the teacher's pet because I never caused any problems. And I turned my assignments in on time and I had like the well-written papers that they could use for examples. But then that caused problems for me because then I was like, the phrase in my head is goody two-shoes. I don't know where that came from. Like, I'm Taylor, the top of the class. Like, you get picked on for that too. And people give you a hard time for that. And I have always had people have been I don't know if it's making fun of me. I just was othered. I was othered because of that. I was always being made the example in class. And so it always made me feel weird because like, oh, it's Taylor's paper again. Oh, it's, because the teacher would be like, I'm not saying who this is. And everybody like, oh, it's Taylor's, whatever. And it just makes you feel like, I don't know. It made me feel really othered a lot of times. So in college, my differences to me became more pronounced because I would see, I'm just like, I shouldn't be this stressed. other people in my life, my roommates, like my band colleagues, like they can handle all the things I'm doing better. And that doesn't make sense to me because I know I'm smart and I know I'm capable. But like they can have all these assignments on their plate and be able to go out and enjoy the weekend with friends and stay out late and party or whatever. I was so far away from being able to do, like, I think I went to one college party at TCU. It was a band party, and band kids are wild, let me tell you. But yeah, I was just like, my brain is so different. I'm not processing college life the way that other people are. And so I went to our, I don't even remember what it was. We had like, was it a counselor that I went to? And I told them, I'm like, something is different with my brain. And so I remember them doing neurofeedback with me, and, they hook me up to these machines, and I'm like watching my brain waves do stuff on the computer. I wish I remember more of what actually happened because it was so long ago now, but, the end result, which has always been the end result for me medically, is that I'm stressed and anxious and depressed. Not always, depression wasn't always on the table, but she's stressed, she's anxious. And so this becomes problematic because I think when you're doing neurofeedback, if you're coming at it from the perspective of stress and anxious, that I think you're going to be implementing those strategies in ways that aren't as helpful, right? If you know that you're autistic, you're going to better understand the situations that cause you to feel this stress and anxiety. I don't know. My thoughts aren't fully developed well enough yet to speak about that. But I think the approach with neurofeedback really matters. Like if you're coming at it as stress and anxiety versus autism, I think it's going to have a different effect on your brain. And again, I'm not a medical provider, but these are my thoughts. Take it or leave it. So in college, I was like, I'm different. I need help. And bottom line was stress and anxiety. So I'm like, I'll show you. I'm going to get out of this place. I'm going to graduate early. There were so many reasons I graduated early. That's the story for another day. So then after I graduated, I started seeing therapists regularly, and I went through several therapists because, and this is the important part of the video. I had no idea I was going to talk for this long. So maybe I'll switch it up into 2 videos. So the therapist that I dealt with, and this is the frustrating thing, I feel like the original therapists in my 20s, they were kind of going along this skill set of like A plus B equals diagnosis, right? Like the first therapist wanted to diagnose me with OCD. Thought that I checked all the boxes, like A plus B equals OCD. That's catchy. And autism doesn't work like that. Like A plus B does not equal autism. There's not this strict clear-cut formula of like bang, 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 autism, right? And so that's what I so appreciate about the psychologist that I see now, Dr. Williams. I've linked their information in a lot of places. Look in the Big Autistic Resource Guide. I really feel like they use their training and their medical knowledge as a framework, but not as like a black and white rubric, right? I feel like they use that information to inform, but not to prescribe. I don't know. I'm not sure I love that word choice, but what I'm trying to say is that my psychologist now, it's like, I think that seeing and understanding autism, it's very nuanced, right? And I think even diagnosing autism, I'm getting a little bit preachy here, I think even diagnosing autism requires a higher IQ, like a higher level of intelligence, because you have to be able to hold conflicting ideas in your head. And a lot of the autistic experience is a paradox. And it can be difficult to make sense of all of the inner workings of autism. It's not A plus B equals autism. It's a nuanced understanding of cognitive functioning, social differences, sensory integration, nervous system regulation, communication differences, like being able to hold all of those differences and nuances together and to create a bigger picture to understand autism. It's so important. And so as I was putting my thoughts together on this, I'm like, I really think that it even requires a higher level of intelligence to diagnose autism. And I think there's really something to be said for that. I just think that's really important. Because I don't think you can like, there's an idiom or something like nailing down, I don't know. I can't think of the idiom. Idioms are so hard. Like trying to nail down like slime or something, you know? You can't define us really. And so that's, and each of our experiences are so unique. I think that's, oh, I started looking at the wrong camera. That might be weird. Dang it. And I'm not editing it. Okay, each of our experiences are so unique that you can't really like define. It's hard to define a diagnostic criteria. Yeah, this video is bringing up so many things. Okay, what did I write down here? I watch people. I know my brain is different. And what finally broke it open for me was the term copy and paste behaviors. One of my colleagues mentioned this to me because they were talking about somebody that was recently diagnosed with autism that I knew. And one of the things, the light bulbs for them was copy and paste behaviors. And so as soon as I heard that term, I understood it. I was like, doesn't everybody do this? Doesn't everybody watch other people and copy what they're doing and paste it into their own mannerisms and inflection and tone of voice and facial expressions? And that's what broke it open for me, where I finally realized this is how my brain is different. Not everyone is a watcher. Not everyone is a pattern recognizer. And from there, I just took it and ran with it. And I'm so, so grateful, you know, just tremendously grateful to have the understanding of being autistic now. And looking back, just it makes sense so many things. And I do think that because I was successful scholastically, I don't know, that word is in my head right now. I do think that it took a lot of attention away from the fact that anything else could be going on. You know, if I would have had trouble or, you know, even minor trouble, like at some point I feel like it would have been looked into a little bit, like, why are you having trouble studying for this test? Why are you having trouble communicating in this group project, whatever? I just masked my way through all of it. And I have stress disorders and CPTSD and autoimmune disease to show for it. And I say that laughing because I really am so grateful for where I am now. And like, we all have battle scars, like autistic or not, everybody has battle scars from living life. And it is what it is. You know, I've made peace with it, and I feel grateful to be on this side, like helping share my story and hoping to bring light to other people's stories. But just know if this is you and you feel like, oh my gosh, I've lost years of my life and like I'm angry and upset and whatever. It's like, yeah, feel all those things, feel all of them, and like let yourself work through it and process through it. And then just like keep going, like use that information to make you stronger. And you know, it is what it is. So feel all the things you need to feel, do your best to make peace with it, and realize that it's a process. Like, I think integrating this information is going to take me the rest of my life. Like, I spent the first 3 decades of my life masking and not knowing how to talk about my experiences. So it's going to take me a while to be able to integrate all of that information. So I'm here for you on the journey. If you would like some help unmasking, I've created an online course called How to Unmask Cultivating Your True Autistic Self. And it's a totally self-paced online course that you can start whenever, you can finish whenever, there's no timeline. I also have a guided meditation on there and a guided booklet with like discussion questions and kind of further exploration recommendations. So I spend a lot of time on it. It's like my love letter to the autistic community and like embracing who you are and working through the hard stuff. So I'll put a link to that in the description. You can also find it at momonthespectrum.life. It's just on the homepage whenever you visit there, depending on when you watch this video. But thanks so much for watching. Yeah, your brain is an incredible asset. It deserves to be respected and loved, and I'm so glad you're here. So let's learn more about it together. and I will see you in the next video. Bye.